Welcome to another episode of the Overnight Success Podcast. I'm Christy, your co-host and co-founder at the Optimization Specialist. This particular episode I'm really excited for because we've got a guest speaker with us, Hiram Scaggs. I call him a mentor and a friend. He's someone I've known for a few years now, but he's also got a phenomenal background, and I'm excited to hop in with him. He is the current CTO at Evolve Human Optimization Labs. He was a CSO, so a chief sales officer at Fun and Moving, and has an incredible journey of helping startups from ideation to exit. And I'm so excited to hop in today on the Overnight Success Podcast. Hiram, welcome and thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. Really excited to talk to you all.
Yay, awesome. Well, why don't we just hop right in? I know we were chatting a little bit before this episode about kind of some of those big accolades you've had, but let's take it back. Like on this podcast, we are quoting the overnight success is not actually an overnight success. So why don't you just tell us a little bit about your startup journey?
That's right. Yeah, I think one of the main things, like if we go back to the kind of the beginning, I started at Enterprise, the car rental company. Great place to kick off a career, and I have a lot of friends that are still there all these years later and have done really super well. We called it the MBA without the IOU. That's kind of an internal enterprise thing. It really and truly teaches you a lot about business. And from there, I left and started a consulting company while juggling a full-time job and kind of figuring out what I wanted to do next. After I came to San Antonio from New Orleans, which was a big move, and uprooting my family and doing all that. I worked a series of contracts and jobs that were definitely different than enterprise, right? They weren't the same thing, and they were more entrepreneurial and more specific sales focused. But it was a series of like, this isn't quite right. This isn't quite right. And, came out of the gates early, solid 7 years at enterprise where it felt like I was doing something that mattered and was important, even though I know it's renting cars, right? But like, it was a really cool experience, really great. Yeah, there was definitely some trying to find your footing, I guess, after that. I knew I wanted to go out there and accomplish something, specifically sales oriented. But it definitely took me a while to land on anything that really made a ton of sense. I think one of the first things I did was get really plugged in San Antonio, and that helped. Being a person who had some family here and some connections, but not like a lot. Getting involved in Geekdom and getting involved at Launch SA and getting involved with Velocity Texas. Like there were a lot of kind of groups that I plugged into to kind of get in the community and get like learning what the needs were here and how business is done. In New Orleans, everything is very, on the business side, it's a lot more buttoned down, and there's a lot more like suit and tie focused. Enterprise has that also. So I came here in a suit and tie every day, and it definitely was the wrong vibe for this town. And I didn't, immediately know that. I walked into a lot of places where people were like, "Oh my God, my ADP rep is walking in," and I was not working for ADP. It was just, sending a more like banker look than exactly what the average business person is wearing today in San Antonio. And that was true then. So like learning what the fundamental ground rules are, I think, in a place, in a town, it can be really helpful. Obviously that mattered a lot. Finding people to get involved with. There's a group called the Entrepreneurs Coffee Club that I got involved with, and I was on a run with 3 of those people from that group that I joined 8 or 9 years ago, like last Thursday. So these are folks that like very early on, I got plugged in to some people who were incredibly helpful. They had businesses of their own. They had their own stories. One was my buddy Jeremy, who's the founder of Evolve, right? He was at that Entrepreneurs Coffee Club. We were just talking about the businesses we had and what we were trying to accomplish and what our heartburns were. Getting with like-minded people, the founder's journey can be really, really lonely. And even when you're just trying to be a part of startups and, getting, you have a big vision maybe, of what you could accomplish. But it's the putting all of the pieces together, and they can be disparate pieces. It can be really, really super difficult. So there was kind of a, I don't know, a lost period, a couple of years that felt like being a little bit in the desert, finding yourself. Um, but it did build, in 2018 or 2019, right around there, I got my first consulting client, and it was, not a change the world amount, but it was enough where I could actually go, okay, I can actually do this. This actually makes sense. Um, you know, it's like a $30,000 contract, right? It's not a year's salary. It's not everything. You can build on that. And that was really, really big for me. And I did that in the seventh floor of Geekdom in one of the office rooms there, with another startup that had gotten a lot of traction and managed to get some funding. We're looking to manage their sales team. So that was kind of like the first baby step, I guess, of helping other businesses be successful. And a lot of those things that I learned at, honestly, a rental car company, at Enterprise, and some more beyond that, from investing in myself and continuing to learn, continuing to take courses, and really every book on business I could pick up, which was kind of a family trait. Like, I guess, well, a lot of folks in my family have done that for years. But kind of learning as you go, and eventually, found some fits, found some things I was able to really, really help others with. And sales was definitely that thing. Being able to manage people, especially salespeople, it's a tricky group, right? These tend to be highly independent, highly outside the box kind of thinkers. That doesn't go hand in hand with management. Like, managing that group is kind of like managing a herd of cats. But you just have to become the salesperson whisperer in that world. Having done that job personally, having been direct perform, teaching other people how to do the same. And sometimes with salespeople, you're not even teaching anybody how to do the sales part. There's a lot of people that are just dyed-in-the-wool salespeople. They just walk and talk and sell, and it's like innate. It's almost like born with them. And there's other people that need more of a helping hand. Figuring out who those people are early that don't need help at selling, and not trying to teach them to sell. Like, you don't need to reinvent the wheel there, right? And similarly, finding the people that do need a little bit more help and who you can invest in, and who's never going to be any good at it, which is also hard. Sometimes people can keep trying to invest in someone over and over and over again who's not ever going to be able to produce. I think the 80-20 policy, or the 80-20 rule, is really, really true, and it's true in a lot of things, but especially sales. 20% of your producers are going to produce 80% of the positive results you want to get, or 80% of the revenue. And the rest are either learning or on their way out, or we're never going to work out in the first place. And that's kind of the way you have to set up your team, while not like allowing top sellers to get away with murder either, when it comes to like admin or, things that in-house stuff that you have to deal with, their personalities. You still have to manage those. So, I mean, those are kind of the things that I, along the way, had learned. I mean, at various points, there was a time where, before I was with Fun and Moving, I was leaving one job where I had kind of helped a consulting company that was consulting with manufacturing, kind of revamp their sales process. And they did so well that they turned around and sold it, which was really cool. But it also meant I was out of a job. For the best possible reason. Like, you help them succeed so well that they don't need you anymore, right? But it definitely left me in a conundrum. And there was a point where we were like, I don't know, I got to pay the bills, right? So I have a boating license, a boater certification rather, here in Texas, and I became a boat captain for the tours at down on the Riverwalk. I went the first day of training, and I got a call from the folks that were founding Fun and Moving, and became their chief sales officer instead. And so that I'm very thankful for. Again, like one of those timing things where it works out. And honestly, when I exited Fun and Moving, when I left there, that was a wonderful thing to have happen. But I also was like, oh my gosh, I want to do something. What do I do? And that buddy from, 8, 9 years ago that I'd continue having coffee and lunch with, also ended up saying, you want to, come on and evolve and help us expand. So at every step of the way, there are moments where you're like, oh God, what am I going to do next? Whether it's a financial thing or what am I going to do with my time? Or what am I going to work on next? Even if it's just where's your passion lie and what can you accomplish or what can you do? And sometimes even success can leave you a little adrift. So
That's
that's
all
kind of
so
the
powerful.
main arc.
Yeah, there's so many places I want to dive in because you've covered a lot of ground in the last 5, 10 minutes. And at the end of the day, I feel like I heard
My
a
whole
couple of
career,
common
right? I just
threads.
encapsulated the
Yeah.
whole thing.
5 minutes. This is what you did.
Right?
There's a few things I want
Hey,
to
be
pull
bright,
on
be
here.
brief, be gone, right? That's what we say in sales.
We're here to save time, money, energy. He's like, I'm in or I'm out. We got
That's right.
it. um, well, a big thing too that I heard, so a couple common themes when you were speaking. One that really comes through, especially knowing you, is
Yep.
being authentically you. Like I just value that so much. And every time I see you, Hiram, you're just like, here I am, and this is what we're doing. And for those who are not watching the video of this, Hiram's beard has grown about 18 times from the day I met him. And it's just this big bushy beard. And to me, that's like you stepping into your authenticity. You're not wearing a suit and tie. You're not being stuffy. You're like, this is what we do. And you're stepping into that. So A, I love that. B, the other thing I really want to pull on here is finding your tribe. You found community. You went to this coffee networking run group and have cultivated these relationships. And along the way, you've trusted the process. And you touched on the trusting the process. I want to dive a little bit deeper into that. Like, how did you overcome the scariness of, you literally built yourself out of a job. You also, the scariness of like, I guess we're going to just figure it out because honestly, food is real, right? We want a roof over our head. You need to pay the bills. And so then how do you continue to stay authentic, stay like, trust the process and continue to move forward, even in such uncertainty? I think as entrepreneurs, that's what we have to do. And so I'd be kind of just curious, high level, what's coming up for you on that question.
Yeah, I think one of the things that's really interesting, I think there are people that can trust the process, do the process, all those sorts of things, and there are people that like should do anything but entrepreneurship. I think like that's one distinction that's really important. Like, yes, everyone can create some sort of value, or everyone can create potentially a job, but there are some people that are like, not me, I'm not doing that. And if you know that's you, don't start a company, right? It's the worst. It's the worst thing you could possibly do if you know that's not, that kind of uncertainty isn't for you. Now, that being said, I think there's a lot of people who are like, I don't know if I could deal with it, and actually you probably could, and you're just not realizing the depths of, I guess, ability that you really truly have. That there's reserves that you can call upon. But one thing I know is pretty common for most entrepreneurs. I had a lawn mowing business when I was in like junior high and high school. From the time I could drag a lawnmower basically and physically do somebody's lawn, that's how I made money. And I had a lot of friends who worked in ice cream shops and they hated it, and all their like nights and weekends were gone. And I worked like 5 hours on a Saturday, and that was my whole week. It was like 8 to 1 on a Saturday. And there were some times where I was doing more, so like that became more of my time, but it was never as much time as what my friends were doing, even all the way back then. And I think every entrepreneur that is currently doing something, they've got some story like that. They were selling candy, or they were, figured out a problem and figured out how to make it profitable for themselves, or figured out how to work in a different way than what other people were doing. So I think like that's a warning sign, like a positive sign, I should say, not warning, but like that you might be an entrepreneur. Like if you've done this, this might be a thing that you could do again as an adult, or maybe you just didn't imagine how you could do it. When I left enterprise, it was an awesome job. It was amazing. It was really, really hard to leave there. I could have worked there potentially forever, right? And at a certain point, I had to go, as good as this isn't what I want. This isn't what I long term feel like I need. Like, I feel like I need to do something different. And if you're feeling that call, if you're experiencing that, might be a time to try it. Now, you can try it while you're doing something else, right? There's only so much time and energy, so you can't like do 50 things all at the same time, or you'll do them all poorly. But you can try entrepreneurship while you have a full-time job. I mean, I think most people do that first because you have to see if it's a hobby or if you really can do this or if it really has legs or whatever the case is. If your expertise is actually called for, that you may find out there's zero demand. Or there might be a ton of demand and the market you thought was saturated actually could really use you specifically to help them out solving those problems, whatever they may be. So I think like if you think you might be an entrepreneur, try it. Let's see how it goes, right? I think people talk about failing forward, failing fast, like learning from your mistakes. Most failures, I should say, aren't fatal. Some are, but most aren't. And I think most people are afraid to even try because they're so afraid of failing. And even folks that have that entrepreneurial experience, maybe it was easier when they were a kid. Maybe it was easier when they had someone else taking care of the expenses of room, board, education, all those things. So that was easier to focus on. But if you have that skill set somewhere, in your toolkit, like I think it could be called upon. It could be used again in the future. I don't know that everybody who has that ability has really given it a shot. And I feel like even if you fail at it, you learn a lot about yourself and you bring more value to your career, your future, all of those things. So certainly worthwhile to me. But if you know 100% you're not an entrepreneur, don't try. It's not like it's everybody should do it, right?
Yeah. Well, entrepreneurship is hard, and we all know that, but it's not as hard as what is it? It's you don't know it's as hard as it is until you actually get into it. Like it's going to be hard, but it's very challenging.
Yeah.
And I think what you just spoke to is so powerful. Go ahead.
Yeah, and I think it can be very freeing sometimes knowing. I think most people see this and get like kind of down on themselves, but when you realize that the world is run by people who have no idea what they're doing, and even successful businesses are sometimes run by people that really don't know a ton better than others. They did something, it was hard work, and it paid off. Not everything does. But like the fact that this person or that person could be that successful, you might be able to be that successful too. Like it really might be possible. Is it disheartening sometimes when we see like nobody really knows 100% what they're doing? They're just trying to do the next right thing and take the next right step. Yeah, it can be, but I think in some ways it's freeing because it means like try, see what the limits might actually be. You might be the best expert in this space that's trying to solve this problem. You really might be because the other people who were doing it only got into it because there was demand or only got into it because people asked them to and it's not their passion. And like they're dying for somebody else to solve that problem. They don't want to do it anymore.
Yeah. You touch on that several times too, is as an entrepreneur, we're solving problems and we have to keep that in mind, right? And I think a lot of times founders they can fall into a trap of falling in love with the solution. And that's not necessarily what the audience wants. Yeah. And so like knowing that you're solving a problem, that's been a common thread through everything you've said here. So why don't I ask you a little bit about your role with Evolve? So as as a CTO, I also would argue you're on the revenue side of things here. And with your sales background, you have that skill set. Yeah. So tell us a little bit more about what you're doing with Evolve, because on the Overnight Success podcast and at the Optimization Specialist, you guys are a fun testimonial or case study for us to talk about. And we've got the man here now. So let's talk a little bit more about Evolve and the role that you play there and the problem that you guys are solving.
Yeah, my buddy Jeremy and his wife Courtney started Float, which is another like spa concept with float tanks, which are the float therapy. I'm trying to think of the word. Sensory deprivation tanks. There we go. They also have like massage and some other stuff. They started that way back when Jeremy and I were just having coffee together at the Entrepreneurs Coffee Club. When I left Fun and Moving, I went to go have, honestly, a regularly scheduled like once a month lunch with Jeremy. And he was like, hey, we're franchising. we're franchising sooner than we thought we would because people are knocking down our door because the concept's so great that they're like, please franchise to us. So they're like, we got the right people, we got the right consultants and experts to know that we're doing it right, but we need somebody else on our team. It was just Jeremy and Courtney doing it. And they are a dynamic duo. They're incredible at what they do, but sometimes you just need more hands. You need more people. And in that case, they're like, we really want there to be a robust framework for our franchisees to follow. We both want them to use our sales system, and we want to have systems that we can hand them that can make kind of guardrails, I guess, for them to be successful on what to do, how to implement the systems we already had. Because when you have a business and you're making money, you have a bunch of processes, even if they're informal. There are things that work to get money in the door, things that work to get more money, and you kind of know what those things are as you start to build a business, make money. A year in, we're franchising, and we're going to have to formalize every single one of those processes so that our franchisees can be successful too. And one of the things they always say in franchising is you come from the company you created, that Jeremy and Courtney bore this really cool, brought this amazing new idea into the world, and everyone wants to think that they are that idea. If you're a health and wellness concept, that I am a health and wellness expert, or if it's a pest control company that you're trying to do, I'm a pest control expert. But when you franchise, you stop being the expert in the type of company you are, and you start being an expert in training and development. And that's a thing that most people just are really unprepared for. You have to make your franchisees really, really successful to be able to keep selling franchises long term. And obviously, we have a goal, and we're going to accomplish this. But our goal is to bend the arc of the entire wellness industry our direction. We took the spa model, we broke it open, and we're sharing it with people. Right? We're making it accessible for regular, middle class, lower income folks, all the way up. Of course, the upper income folks can still come, but it's accessible by regular people that they can recover. Cold plunge, red light, infrared sauna, traditional sauna, massage chairs, a bunch of different modalities to play with. It's a walk-in model. It's truly revolutionary in this space, while using things that are, again, at the forefront of science and have good data on them, are good modalities to use in these situations. We also believe you can turn on your own on button. And if you can come and turn on your own on button to any of these things, you don't need a doctor on site. You don't need a nurse. You don't need a practitioner there. You need a lab tech, which is what we have, a person who's very excited about what you're there for, who can help you accomplish it, show you how to use the devices, but realistically, you can use them themselves. So that in and of itself is just a fairly revolutionary idea, right? That you can have someone come into a spa, not have to have had an appointment, can walk in anytime, use the stuff themselves, and it's communal. So being able to actually, we call it a social wellness playground, right? So a place where people can kind of gather and get to know each other and foster community, which is something that I'm very passionate about. So when they came and asked me, oh my gosh, are you free? Could you do this with us? It was like a hell yes. It wasn't just like a, maybe, I don't know, possibly. I ended up on a health and wellness journey myself. I mean, my mom's a personal trainer. I've got a lot of folks in the family who have been in fitness for years. I played lacrosse at LSU. I played football for 9 years, a big runner back in the day. So there's a lot of athleticism, but not the most healthy person in the world, and certainly not terribly health conscious. Until just a few years ago, I almost 4 years ago now, I was riding my bike and a Dodge Durango nearly ran over me. So an SUV, a fairly large one, reversed suddenly in traffic while I was riding. They did never see me. They weren't trying to hit anybody. They're just trying to get around a long line of traffic at a light. It's one of those moments where you're on the bicycle and you look at the bell there and you're like, I could ding this, but it's not going to stop this guy coming. And you just dive off the bike. And so that smooshed is what the orthopedic surgeon said, smooshed the top of my tibia. So the top 2 inches of my tibia were just ground out. I mean, they just went away. It was pulverized. Um, and so I, rehab from that. They put, a plate, 5 screws in my leg. And yeah, I was able to, I would say like 3+ months was, completely unable to put any weight on it, all those sorts of things, and was looking for a way to rehab. When I found Fun and Moving, and it's a rehab and fitness company, so it fit for me rehabbing at the time. And then fast forward to Evolve, it's a recovery company, all about helping people live their best life and be the most well they can. But I mean, cold plunge and sauna are huge for both longevity and for inflammation. Things that happen when you're retesting a leg that got hurt, when you have injuries, when you have knee problems, all those sorts of things. So it definitely, that accident is what brought me to Evolve. I wouldn't be here without that having happened, for sure. It kind of changed my trajectory and passion. But obviously, what I'm doing is still, like you said, I started out as a chief growth and innovation officer, which is revenue kind of tied in, and now the chief technology and training officer. I'm still helping franchisees be really successful and use our systems. The way I'm doing that now is by teaching. So it has a lot less to do with direct sales. It has a lot less to do with even being a sales manager. I'm teaching the sales managers to manage salespeople, right? So it's kind of a different way of using technology to enable that.
And that requires a lot of time and skills and training and it's through practice, right? Like you can read all the books and you can watch other people and you can
Yeah.
watch it from your family or influencers, but in reality, you know, going through this evolution of Fun and Moving and the enterprise rental car and learning the systems in place, I think
Yeah.
enterprise and Cutco are two of the best places to work for out of college because they do have a
Yeah.
lot of systems in place, right? Like they've really refined the model, specifically the sales
Do.
model. So you've learned a lot in that. And I think when we look at what y'all are doing at Evolve, it's really exciting as someone who has been there as well to experience the opportunity there. It is a recovery lab. It is community based. It's not scary or intimidating to go into. We have access to all these amazing different equipment and it's affordable. So what you guys are doing to revolutionize the market and put this into a franchise model and recognize, hey, we're no longer the health and wellness experts. We're looking for the people who are passionate about that. We're passionate about providing you right systems and solutions so that you can grow that team and continue to solve
Right.
the problem in the market, right? So all in all, it's kind of a full circle
100%.
experience here where I feel like you kind of shared your story very quickly, but it shows in how you manage people and how you lead people and how you work within these teams and how to solve the real world problem as an entrepreneur. And people are buying from people. And so I love that you're showing up and supporting not only people in their livelihoods, because the more franchises that you guys can operationalize, the more families and lives that you're impacting all across the world. So it's really neat to see. Go ahead.
Absolutely.
So I would say
I was just gonna
the last,
say,
there's a delay. Sorry, go ahead.
sorry about that. Yeah, no worries. I actually don't remember, so why don't you go?
That's okay. Dang internet, good at getting us a lag sometimes. But well, my question to you is kind of wrapping us up here is as someone who's been on the journey, you've felt the ups and the downs, the highs, the lows, the literally physically getting hit and like changing the trajectory of things is
Yeah.
what's a piece of advice
Talk
you
about a
would
low.
give?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. What's like your number one piece of advice you would give to a founder or someone who's looking to take that entrepreneurial leap as someone who's further in the journey?
Yeah, I think founders do things. Um, it isn't something that you can claim if you're not doing it. Um, that really is something that I think is most important. Founding is an action. It it isn't a concept. It isn't theory. It is follow through. To actually bring something new into this world is very difficult. And it can feel like an elaborate magic trick when it's done well. Just like success can feel overnight. It can feel like that when you make money out of an idea or something genuinely of value is created where nothing existed before. Um, that's a truly magical kind of thing that can happen. And I think people do sometimes put that on a pedestal, maybe deify it or say it's this like most amazing thing, but it is incredible. It is genuinely amazing. But to do that, to make it look that great, you have to do things. No amount of theorizing, planning, no amount of, coming up with cool, new slogans or whatever is ever going to make that happen. Action makes that happen. And sometimes you have to slow down to speed up, put better systems in place. Sometimes there's like unusual plateaus or steps that you have to take to get to the next level. But it's all action. Inaction never got anybody anywhere. And I always think of like Newton's laws of motion, right? An object in motion tends to stay in motion. An object at rest tends to stay at rest. If you don't try it, if you don't do anything, you're just going to stay where you're at. If you do something, probably going to keep doing things, and it's probably going to keep adding up. I think that's important.
I love it. Yeah. I think the hardest part is often starting. You know how many times I'm like, this thing's going to take 15 minutes, like my dishes. Inertia. And then it takes me all day to do the dishes. And then when I get them done, I'm like, it took 10 minutes.
Well, one of the things they say in recovery is ice is nice, but motion is lotion. That's like a really like old fashioned, I want to say like a coach thing to say, right? But it's stay in motion, man.
It's so true. I love that. Okay, well, on that note, Hiram, thank you as always for your time. Where can our audience find you if they want to get more general information, stay up to date, sales knowledge? Like you're always dropping wisdom online. So where can people find you?
I appreciate that. So LinkedIn is a great place to connect with me directly. If you're interested in a franchise, I would also connect on LinkedIn. I have a book an appointment link on there that's specifically about franchising. If you just want to chat to me, just send me a message on LinkedIn. That's really easy. I do accept most connection requests that aren't obviously fake. If you're interested in learning more about Evolve, evolvehumanlabs.com is a great place to check it out. If you're interested in franchising, there's also a franchise page there where you can also submit a form. I'll let you know it also goes back to me. So both of those things are good. If you want to learn more about sales or franchising or just interesting things about business and life, again, I think LinkedIn is a really good place to reach out. I post a lot of stuff there. When I do an event or when I speak somewhere or hold a workshop, it's always posted on LinkedIn. So it's a really good way to find out about it.
Awesome. And do you have any upcoming events that you want to plug here? To put you on the spot.
That's a great question. I know visiting Evolve is always a good thing to do. I'm often there, and it's a fun place to go. I know Emerge and Rise is also a really great innovation center if you're starting a new business and you're looking for help, reaching out with grants, or there's some really specific stuff they know how to do that's kind of not your typical, because they're not a business incubator or some of the other groups that are already in town. So they're a cool crew to reach out to. I do 11:30 to 1. I do mentor in residence over there on Mondays. So that would be another good way to kind of bump into me. I'm also often at Geekdom doing either events or workshops or being a mentor there too.
I love it. Well, thank you so much for your time and your knowledge in this podcast today. We'll have to have you back. I look forward to coming to visit at Evolve as well. And I'll definitely see you soon. So thank you for your time, Hiram.
I'm excited about